Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy, the Meccan Revelations, part 47, in which I will pick up right where Edward left off in part 46. If you would like to start with part 1, or check out part 20, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Here's the playlist, and you can surf it. You can scroll up and down and decide, or you can keep watching this. Either one. I can't really, with any confidence, tell you what this is going to be like, but I think we're still continuing what we were reading last time, and last time I think it was fine. It's pretty good, I think. But first, we're going to read some Hafiz. Hafiz is the 14th century Sufi poet. I mean, there were others, no doubt. And then we'll get to the Meccan Revelations. I'm not going to make Editor try to cut down on the amount of work I give him. But first, we can do the incense. And just to be different, just to be weird, I thought I would go with a little frankincense and myrrh today. Sorry about the clicking of the lighter for anyone with misophonia. You know, I don't know if that's... It's not repetitive, really. Not too repetitive. Yeah, so you know what frankincense and myrrh smells like. You've been to church, right? And as for the beverage, got a little bit of something I like to call sanguis Christi, if you know what I'm saying. But this, in order to properly enjoy this, the proper way to do it, like if you're in Ethiopia and you want to have coffee, there's a whole song and dance to it, a whole ceremony. So first, just real quick. Yeshua. Corpus Christi. Speaking of misophonia, Editor Edward, could you skip to when I finish chewing? Sanguis Christi. I'm ready. Let's do this. Oh, this is going to be a randomly chosen. The great expanse. Anger sinks the boat. Now we are not praising that, quote, drowning, end quote, in his ocean, just crossing the great expanse of each minute with all of the compassion and dignity we can find. It's nice to be past those, the orange and white petals. Enough said. Finally on that green. The neighbor's dogs say hi. I guess, I'll just get right to it. K and OW know that in theology, the root of the situation that I have been discussing is this divine theophany. That's when God reveals itself in some form. I think it's a pretty good definition. From which this matter becomes manifest in the worlds of the unseen and the visible. The reason for this is that the form of the world in its totality, of man in his transcription, and of the angel in its power, is the station of theophany in diverse forms. Did you happen to miss or catch that one of the forms that God takes is mankind? Just wanted to make sure that you didn't gloss over that. Yes. The reason for this is to form the angel's diverse forms. No one truly knows the reality of these forms within which transmutation takes place, except him who possesses the station of transmutation within any form he wishes, even if he does not make this station manifest. Just to be fair, I enjoy reading this, and I'm pretty well sure that whoever's watching this knows that I know that they know that I know that people changing forms, I'll keep an open mind, It's nice to think that maybe somewhere in the deserts of Arabia 2,000, 1,000, whatever years ago, people are transforming and talking to genies and stuff. I feel like I would be killing Santa Claus in a way that he doesn't need to be killed. You remember that time I killed Santa Claus and told you all about the Buddhist chauvinism? I don't want to kill, we all have a rational, I think most of us have that little voice that's like, people aren't changing form. Come on, what kind of trickery is this? But I don't know. There's mentalism, who knows? Hypnotism, if you can hypnotize someone into seeing a different face when they look at your face, who knows? Or makeup. There's really good makeup artists that can make you look just like Jack Nicholson, maybe, who knows? I don't know. For the skeptic, for the inner skeptic. So, the reason I say to be fair is because I criticized a lot of what the basic assumptions that Martin Luther had 2 episodes ago and that Carl Jung had 1 episode ago. And I'm not saying anything now. I'm holding my tongue. But you and I know that this is bullshit, right? I'm sorry. I don't mean to... No, it's not. It could, maybe. Who knows? Keep an open mind. Because it's more fun. That's the thing, right? So you play along with the Santa Claus thing just because everybody's having so much fun. The kids love singing Santa Claus. They think the old guy, the creepy, guy in the Santa suit is Santa Claus, and you don't want to let him down. I'll keep reading. No, maybe they were. Who knows? All right. Take these forms with it. Takes place if he wishes. This station does not belong to anyone except the pure and... it's not uncommon in old stuff. When we get to this, it seems like when we get to the Yoga Sutras, one of those is the Yoga Sutras. And I think there's a lot of commentary written in quote unquote present day, 100 years ago. I don't know exactly when this was written, but, translated and commentated upon. But it was originally written about 2,200 years ago-ish, 2nd century BC. And yeah, when you get to the, I think, 3rd chapter, people are levitating. It's like, oh yeah, you can be lighter than a feather and heavier than an elephant. All you have to do is have perfect meditation, perfect samadhi, and then, and freaking perfect concentration. But that's kind of a prerequisite for perfect meditation and perfect samadhi, which is enlightenment or whatever, oneness. Being surfing the wave of reality as it's flowing out from the void, all that. And you do all 3 at the same time. And when you combine meditation, concentration, and samadhi, you get samyama. And then you can levitate, and you can disappear, and you can change form, and all this stuff. So it's Ibn Arabi, 2,000 years, 1,000 years, 1,400 years after Patanjali talking about the yogas, the speaking and it getting written down as the Yoga Sutras, right, in the form of, he's saying a lot less than Patanjali's saying. So, and I adore the Yoga Sutras. So, I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is a bunch of BS, but I'm pointing out, the old-fashioned stuff in it that's kind of fun to point out. But it doesn't enrage me like Martin Luther or Carl Jung does. It's just sort of oh, people changing form. Are they levitating? Okay. What was I saying? What was I reading? No one truly knows the reality of these forms within which transmutation takes place, except him. I mean, everything on the astral, there's a lot of people. Like, when I'm reading, some of you might be following, if not Padmasambhava. There was a recent Padmasambhava Part 17 that I did, to be clear. It's me sitting in front of a bookshelf reading about Padmasambhava. The thing I pointed to. A few days ago, in fact. And a lot of this stuff isn't, a lot of people will say that a lot of that stuff isn't necessarily literal. It's processes that went on astrally. So, there's that, like, then that opens all the doors. Then Lord of the Rings is like, oh, all right, this is Lord of the Rings is astral non-fiction. That's what it is. All right, what? No one truly knows the reality of these forms within which transmutation takes place, except him who possesses the station of transmutation within any form he wishes, even if he does not make this station manifest. This station does not belong to anyone except the pure and utter servant, whose station of servanthood does not allow him to gain similarity with a single attribute of his master. It even happens that as a result of his strength, in the realization of servanthood, he reaches the point where he is annihilated. Yeah, that's a nice... Let me just pause and be annihilated for a minute. Let's do the thing that happens when in the other channel, the other series, whenever I say Tao. Yeah, thanks. We need an Islamic version of that. Edward, there's your homework. I'm going to reread that line, and you're going to do the Islamic version of the thing that happens in the Secret of the Golden Flower series whenever I say the word Tao as the direct object of a poignant sentence. I don't, every time, not every time. Okay, let's read it again. It was good. I like it. This station does not belong to anyone except, was that what I just read? No, here we go. It even happens that as a result of his strength in the realization of servanthood, he reaches the point where he is annihilated. Yes, some good incense, some good cookies, some milk. Vampire milk. Right. Annihilated, oblivious, and destroyed from the knowledge of the power he possesses to undergo transmutation in forms. I feel kind of let down. It's sort of like watching The Matrix 2 and 3 after thoroughly enjoying the first one. That sentence. I like the first part. The dependent clause. I like the dependent clause at the beginning. Never mind. Okay, where were we? He does not know that from himself. He does not know that from himself, since he has turned it over to the station of his master, who describes himself as possessing it. Okay. Maybe that'll make sense upon the third listen. If it were not for the divine root and the fact that God possesses this bracket parentheses transmutation and bracket parentheses and owns it in his very self, capital S, this reality would not become engendered in the world, since it is impossible for there to be something in the world which cannot be traced back to a divine reality in the very form it possesses. Okay, Plato. If this were possible, there would be something in existence outside the knowledge of God. For he does not know the things except through his knowledge of himself, and his self is knowledge. We are in his knowledge like forms in a cloud of dust. Twice. He's on point today. He's in the zone. If you knew, brave youth, who you are, you would know who he is. Since none knows God except him who knows himself. The prophet said, quote, he who knows himself knows his Lord. End quote. So God knows you from himself. He tells you that you will not know him except from yourself. He who understands this meaning will come to know what we are saying and to what we are alluding. Can't come out and say it without getting my head cut off in 11th century Syria. So you're going to have to put the rest of this together. I'm going to give you all the clues. Can you see my lips? Don't let your lips move. They're watching. They can read lips. Just translating the subtext that I assume might have been there. As for the hadith of theophany, on the day of resurrection, I will include it, God willing, as it is included in the Sahih. There follows the text of a long hadith from Muslim concerning the divine root of transmutation within forms. In short, this is from Michel Chodkowitz. He's like, yeah, this part, yeah. Let me just give you the cliff notes. All right. In short, on the day of resurrection, God will appear in various forms, and people will deny him until finally he shows them a sign they recognize. Quote, then he will transmute himself into the form which they saw the first time, and will say, quote within quotes, I am your Lord. End quote within quotes, they will answer, quote within quotes, indeed, thou art our Lord. End quote within quotes, end quote. And bracket parentheses. I feel like it's been longer than it has. We've been through so much. Ups, downs, sides to sides. Is that a thing? And yet, all right. So this next thing says God's signs. Aries. Taurus. No. And then it says chapter 372. So for those of you who are visualizing that these top two shelves are filled with these identical books that are volumes of this thing called the Futuhat, which Michel Chodkowitz and friends have been like, oh, well, how do we summarize this in two books that are this size? And they did it in French. Someone translated it into English. Now I'm reading it to you. So, given the books that you're imagining behind me, this is chapter 372. But we haven't read 372 chapters, right? Does that make sense? All right. So the beginning of this is italics. That means Michel Chodkowitz and friends. This is not Ibn Arabi talking. French guy 100 years ago. Or 50, I don't know when it was. The title of this chapter is, quote, on the true knowledge of the way station of a mystery and two mysteries, and of your praising yourself for what is not yours, and God's answer to you with a meaning that ennobles you. From the Muhammadan presence, the CE. End quote. As is often the case, the significance of the title never becomes clear in the text of the chapter, about 1/3 of which is translated here. Ibn al-Arabi discusses many of his major themes in the selected passage. I can relate a little bit. You might have noticed that each of these episodes of Chicken Philosophy is accompanied by like a short description. And sometimes I'm making reference to something. I've got like an inside joke going with just between me and like someone else who's dead, you know, and I'm like, I'm laughing to myself, and everybody's like, but what does it mean, though? Like, so that's kind of what, similar to this. He wrote things and gave them titles that are like, wait, what? What's with the title, though? You know, like... All right, anyway. And the title never becomes clear in the text of the chapter, about one third of which is translated here. Okay. Ibn al-Arabi, so we're going to read 1/3 of chapter 372. Ibn al-Arabi discusses many of his major themes in the selected passage, beginning with God's beauty. He turns to its manifestation in the world and the resulting bewilderment that overcomes the knowers. The world is nothing but God's signs, but these signs are ranked in degrees, some of them more obvious in their denotation of God than others. Just a reminder, we're reading the French guy introducing it. He's kind of in his own zone, if you know what I'm saying. It's nice to kind of get to know these characters, you know what I mean? The translators and the editors. I never did before. I think I got an extra fold in my brain when I turned 46, and I finally evolved the ability to enjoy the editor's notes, you know, of a book. So that's about the time that happens, if you're wondering. And this is only natural since God's signs, what? The world is nothing but God's signs, but these... And this is only natural, since the signs manifest the names, and the names are also ranked in degrees. Expanding on the theme of the signs that manifest God's names, Ibn al-Arabi turns to the world of imagination.
In a world of pure imagination, take a look, and you'll see into your...
One of the greatest of God's signs, and in particular its role in determining the nature of love, whether for something, someone, or God. All who love God love only the images they themselves have constructed. Oh, your prayers are just spiritual masturbation. That's what this French guy seems to be saying to us. Right. An image. Yeah, graven images. Not just statues, but pictures in your head, too. Alright. Maybe. Who knows? They themselves have constructed. In effect, they profess God's similarity with the creatures, though perfect knowledge of Him demands that they also profess His incomparability. Sinead. This discussion brings up the contrast between rational thought, which only perceives God's incomparability, and revelation, which affirms His similarity. But again, perfect knowledge demands that we take an intermediary position between similarity and incomparability, just as imagination and the perfect man are intermediary states of existence. That's the end of the italics. We're no longer hearing the French guy translated into English from the 20th century, I assume. Maybe early 21st. Now we're going to hear Ibn Arabi. Let's see if I get the voice right. It is reported in the Sahih, bracket parentheses of Muslim, end bracket parentheses, that the messenger of God said, quote, God is beautiful and He loves beauty, end quote. It is He who made the word. That look was about the voice I did, not about the words that the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be he, said. Just to be clear. It is he who made the world and brought it into existence upon his own form. So the whole world is beautiful in the extreme. Not quite that sound, but close. Half a sound. Let's play that sound, but like at a lower volume. Thanks, Editor Edward. It's good to work like a team. Right. There is no ugliness in it. My dad used to, my dad would say, well, what about the aesthetic appeal of maggots in a dead horse? And then he'd say, well, from a transcendental point of view, sure, maggots in a dead horse is beautiful. So if you say everything is beautiful, and you mean it, then it implies a state of transcendence, I guess. Right? Who? Beauty and God is beautiful and he loves beauty. It is reported in the Sahih. So the whole world is beautiful in the extreme. There is no ugliness in it. On the contrary, God brought together in it all comeliness and beauty. Hate all the translators out there. We don't use comeliness anymore. Just so you know. And beauty. There is nothing. What? There is nothing in possible existence more beautiful, more wondrous, or more comely than the world. If you're looking for a name for your daughter or son, I think it could work either way. Comely used to be an English word. All right, what? I don't know. If he were to bring into existence what he brings into existence ad infinitum, it would be like what he has already brought into existence. Let's bring up the tone scale real quick. So, a statement like that could be made by a depressed person, like on the verge of or someone who's bored, or cheerful, or in a state of pure serenity. Everything that God shall ever manifest from here to the end of infinity will be the same as it has always been. Or you could be like, everything that can ever be has already been. You can do that with basically anything. We're all just going around and around and around and around and around and around. And around and around. All right. Thank you, tone scale. I don't know. I think we're starting to wind down. It would be like what he has already brought into existence, since the divine comeliness with a capital D and a capital C. So when your child grows up and says, Mother, Father, why did you name me comeliness? You can tell them, actually, your full name is the divine comeliness. Never mind. Nope. And beauty with a capital B. The divine, your full title, child, is the divine comeliness and beauty. Comely for short. Anyway, what? Since the divine comeliness and beauty will have possessed it and become manifest through it. For, as he says, quote, he gave everything its creation, end quote, i.e., its beauty. If it were to lack anything, it would descend from the degree of the perfection of its creation and be ugly. Quote, then guided, end quote, Quran 20:50. Good year, I hear. Could be. It's up to us, I guess, i.e., explained this point to us through his words, quote, he gave everything its creation, end quote, ... 4 dots. The only reason God multiplied the signs in the world and in ourselves, for we are part of the world. Was so that we might turn our gaze, or nazar, for you Urdu speakers. Has a slightly different specific meaning than gaze, like G-A-Z. Anyway, toward it with remembrance, reflection, intelligence, faith, knowledge, hearing, sight, understanding, and mind. Let's do the list again real quick. Remembrance, reflection, intelligence, faith, knowledge, hearing, sight, understanding, and mind. He created us only to worship and know Him. Hence, He turned us over to nothing but gazing upon the world, for He made it identical with the signs and denotations of the knowledge of Him through contemplation and intelligence. So if we gaze, it is upon Him. If we hear, it is from Him. If we employ our intelligence, it is toward Him. If we reflect, it is upon Him. If we know, it is He. And if we have faith, it is in Him. For it is He who is revealed in theophany, in every face, sought in every sign, gazed upon by every eye, worshipped in every object of worship. And pursued in the unseen and the visible. Not a single one of His creatures can fail to find Him in its primordial and original nature. So the whole world prays to Him, prostrates itself before Him, and glorifies His praise. Tongues speak of Him. Hearts are enraptured by love for Him. Minds are bewildered in Him. The knowers try to separate him from the world, but they are unable to do so. So they try to make him identical with the world, but that does not become verified for them, so they remain impotent. Their understandings become wearied, and their intellects bewildered, and their tongues speak about him in contradictory expressions. At one time they say, quote, he, end quote. At another, quote, not he, end quote. Naughty, naughty. And at still another, quote, he/not he, end quote. That's where we're going to close. We're still in the middle of the, chapter 372, or a third of it. And we'll pick up where we left off, next time. Where was not he and not he. There we go. So I can make sure to pick up right there next time. On the Meccan Revelations series on chicken philosophy. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're into it. It's both not always like this and it's always like this. Both statements are true. They're also both false. So, good luck. That's what I'm saying. For those who decide to venture forward and take me up on clicking subscribe on Chicken Philosophy today. Anything else? I enjoyed the reading with a little bit of Santa Claus suspension of disbelief. Just a little. The same amount, I'm the same amount, and for the same reason. Like, I don't want to sit there and read about Paul Atreides and be thinking, yeah, but he's not real though. Yeah, but somebody made him up. Frank Herbert. Yeah, well, this is Brian Herbert. So it's not even really, like, it's a skill that's worth developing to be able to set that aside. It's also a skill to be able to both set it aside and take it up as 100%, like 100% Jesus, 100% man, 100% God, right? You can be both 100% like rational and 100% invested in being a dimwit. No, 100% goofy, 100% able to become a god for a ceremony without any thought of, yeah, but I'm not actually this god. To become a character for a movie. They call it method or whatever. You don't have to be method. Like, it's whatever, It's like... Anyway, what's the point? The point is, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the tone. I enjoyed the words. I enjoyed the mind of the author. There's plenty of things that were obviously from an olden time, but not in a way that I feel today, like pouncing on. There's a certain point where things are so subtle that it seems like you're. Like if somebody runs a channel where it's like an outrage channel or whatever, a radio station or TV news, whatever it is. If it's what's the latest thing to be upset about specific things, today, then they'll find something, and even if it's the smallest thing, they'll make it seem bigger than it is. So somehow that relates to whatever I was just saying. And, all right, so next time, it'll be Edward doing Carl Jung, as it was in the beginning. And I hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend. Probably won't see you for a little while. Got the old 6-year marriage anniversary coming up on the 21st. So maybe on the 22nd, maybe 23rd, I'll see you again. Or Edward will see you again on Carl Jung. Until then. Om